My name is Achille Anahi, and I'm the Director of Agitation and Propaganda for the African People Socialist Party. I want to appreciate the media for uniting to be a part of this press conference that we're having right now at the St. Petersburg Police Department headquarters, where they just finalized their press conference, which we were not allowed to be a part of. I guess public presence was not allowed to participate in this press conference. Neither were questions from the media. But we're here because we want to explain what this is about, what the FBI, what the police have stated as the basis for, this so-called investigation. We want to clarify several things. One, that what happened this morning when my car and my personal property was seized from my possession, when they attacked Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Onezene Yeshitela in St. Louis, Missouri, where our current headquarters is for the African People Socialist Party, the Uhuru movement, when they broke into their homes and they handcuffed our leadership, when they went into the Uhuru house here in St. Petersburg, Florida, without issuing a search warrant, when they broke down the doors. So we want to say that they are characterizing this as some kind of investigation into our affiliation with, Russian foreign governments and things like that. But one, I think that this exposes the crisis that the U.S. imperialism is in. Because the U.S. and other world colonial powers have been collaborating against Russia for early into the early 1900s. And this is a consequence right now in 2022 that we see the same attack against Russia. And right now, this war with Ukraine, this defensive war in Ukraine that Russia is actually waging against world colonial powers, not Ukraine as a single entity, but the U.S. and all colonial powers who have an interest in colonially dominating African people right here in this country and around the world and extracting resources from the majority of peoples on the planet. That system, this current system, is in severe crisis, and they cannot rule in the same old way. So that's what we understand, one, about the U.S. government. And the ruling class itself states that imperialism is on the decline. U.S. power is not cyclical, but it is permanent. So that's number one. Number two, the African People Socialist Party is an organization that has been here for 50 years. It is an international organization that not organizes just here in St. Petersburg, Florida, but right there in St. Louis, Missouri, in Oakland, California, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and all throughout the U.S., in Africa, in Europe. And the history of the African People Socialist Party is to unite with any forces that unite with the anti-colonial struggle. And we feel that is a just struggle. We feel that every colonized African who is gunned down in the city of St. Pete, anywhere else in this country, like George Floyd or like Mike Brown, we feel that our response is to fight against that relationship. Our responsibility is to fight against our oppression and our domination. And that means organizing a revolutionary capacity to make that possible. And that means that we unite with any force, because we understand that colonialism is a global system and that it has interests everywhere throughout the world. Everywhere that they are talking about we have a relationship with, the U.S. is there right now plundering people's resources. But they are not under investigation. Just a few weeks ago, the Uhuru house was attacked in broad daylight, where an arsonist came to the Uhuru house and burned down and attempted to burn our red, black, and green flag that waves at our offices down. There was no FBI investigation into that person who tried to burn down our flag. There was no response from the FBI and the St. Pete Police Department to respond to this attack that came against our Uhuru house. And we also understand that that's not a coincidence, that the only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. The institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaba Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers, that was the building that has come under attack. And in St. Louis, where we have incredible economic projects that have transformed the conditions of our community, not the U.S. government, no politician ever did that for our community, but it was us, the Uhuru movement, that made that possible. And today, this process is disrupting a meeting that we're supposed to have around initiating a project, the African Women Doula Project, that can make it possible for African women to deliver babies safely in our community. This process is interrupting that as I speak. And what this is a propaganda campaign against Russia. In that press conference where I had my ear pressed to the door, They are talking about interference in local elections and social media. No, I'll tell you, it's Mark Zuckerberg that interferes with the ability for people to communicate with one another and express their genuine interests. That's who was at the security conference for the U.S. government. It's Mark Zuckerberg who's responsible for that. And the U.S. is attempting to explain its own contradictions with Russia because it cannot rule in the same old way. It does not have the unity of its entire population. That's what Trump represented. And they say it was Russia intervention in the elections. They say it's an undemocratic process. What does the U.S. know about genuine democracy when it takes the ability for African people to feed, clothe, and house ourselves on a daily basis? You want to talk about destabilization? Talk to Nicaragua, talk to Venezuela, talk to Cuba, talk to Russia, and ask about undemocratic processes. That's what we're engaged in right now. And they are attempting to attack this organization. They are attempting to isolate the Black Power movement. That's what they are attempting to do. And we can have relationships with whoever we want, whoever we see fit possible to make this revolution possible. We will have a relationship with them.
It sounds like you're not denying working with Mr. Ivanov and the Russian government. You're not denying that?
Look, they're raiding our properties as we speak. Whatever you want to know, they'll let you know what we have and what we have not done. But I will say this, that we unite with any force that is willing to unite in our anti-colonial struggle. And that part is clear. We will not refuse to engage with others around the world who want to see this system go. We will not refuse that. That's what I'll say about that.
If you are working with the Russian government, were you not concerned at all that
the U.S. is working with every colonial government in the world, and nobody is saying a damn thing about what the U.S. is doing in Africa. They don't raid the homes and ask white people any questions after they come back from Israel, where they're murdering Palestinian people every single day. They don't flash bomb their homes. They don't send the police there, even though they went into international waters in a place where they are killing Palestinians on a daily basis. Nobody is asking them any questions about their affiliation. The U.S. is affiliated with all the undemocratic forces around the world attempting to oppress African and other colonized people.
Why not register as a foreign agent?
Why would we register as a foreign agent? We recognize that this is an illegitimate settler colony, that the only foreigners here are Europeans themselves who came here and stole this indigenous land at gunpoint. That's who needs to register as a foreign alien or whatever. It's the U.S. government.
Are you unindicted co-conspirator number 4?
What does it state? Because they didn't give us any of that paperwork.
So you know.
You want to know my name? Because I can tell you.
Unindicted co-conspirator 4, whose identity is known to the grand jury, was a United States citizen residing in St. Petersburg and the director of agitation and propaganda.
I stated my name is Achille Anahi. I'm the director of agitation and propaganda for the African People Socialist Party. I ran for office in 2017 and 2019 on a platform of reparations, the first time that was ever done in this country. Under the leadership of the African People Socialist Party. It was the African People Socialist Party that did that campaign. It was African.
Do you accept Russian money from
See my public records and the donors that came through that we have to report publicly. See that? See, check our public records. You want to be a part of the state's investigation? You check their public records and see what resources we accepted.
Yes or no? Did you accept Russian money as part of your...
You are trying to make this discussion about something that it is not. You want to know what this real problem is about? If you are genuinely interested to know what this situation is about, not live in fancy land about whether or not I accepted money from Russians, this is real. Not the way you want to see it, not the way you want to control the narrative. What I'm talking about right now is that they're using Russia as a part of a propaganda tool against the people to turn you away, to win, first of all, win your unity with the U.S. government. The U.S. government has no ability to answer any of your questions. None. It can't solve any of your problems, and they tell you that it's Russia's fault. Russia is not in your community causing you to starve. Russia is not in your community pushing you out. Russia is not the St. Pete Police Department that killed Tyron Lewis in 1996. It was not Russia. It was the U.S. government that did that.
Are you concerned about being arrested yourself?
I am not concerned about what the crisis of imperialism and how it will act. No, I'm not.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm like really late for all this stuff. Because this seems like a lot, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Right now.
It started 600 years ago.
Yeah. So what exactly is the FBI accusing you guys of?
They are accusing us of this is what they're making it about. And I want to be clear, this is what they're making it about. Because the African People Socialist Party has been here for 50 years. And this is not the first time we've come under any kind of assault, FBI investigation, or anything like that. This will always be the case as we try to fight for our freedom, because African freedom comes at the expense of U.S. interests. That's just how that goes. And a couple years ago, they labeled Africans who would struggle in their own interests as black identity extremists. They have terrorist designations for people like us who want to fight for our freedom. So I want to make that clear, that this is what they're saying it's about, but they need an entry point to be able to attack our movement, and this is the one that they're using. But they are accusing us of conspiring with the Russian government for, I can't even tell you because it don't really make that much sense. You know what I'm saying? So this is what they are accusing us of conspiring with the Russian government, and for whatever purposes and interests they have not explained. But I guess this comes at the expense of U.S. democracy, which isn't that very democratic.
So what is next for you? Did you get an attorney? What is the next couple of days and weeks look like as they tell us the investigation continues?
Well, we keep with our position, we continue doing what we've always done, which is organize our community towards African revolution. And we organize a response to this, just like we have in this response right now. Just like we're able to put out and define what this struggle is about, that's what we'll continue to do, and we'll continue to organize as necessary around whatever they try to drill down the pipeline. But like I said, this isn't the first time, our first go-around with the FBI. So we are prepared, you know, to take it where it needs to go and to the full length of however long this investigations last. We will organize around it. And that's another thing. You touch me, you touch the African People Socialist Party, you touch Chairman Achille Anahi, you touch Deputy Chair Onizine Eshitela, any member of the African People Socialist Party, you touch a member of the African nation. This is an international organization. We have bases throughout the world. So you don't just touch an individual, you touch an entire organization, and you touch an entire people who are counting on this movement right here to lead us to freedom.
Why work with Russia, who is a known U.S. adversary? Why work with them and be unregistered? Why take their money? Why work with
Did I ever say I took any money? See, no. I never, no. That's what I'm accused of. I never said that, so don't put that in my mouth. I didn't say that.
Did you take money from
Look, I don't want to answer your question because you want to take it somewhere. I don't want to take it there. I've defined this for you. No, I will let them tell it because that's the people you'll believe. That's the people you'll believe. But you want to ask any question about why we would affiliate ourselves with anybody that is willing to unite with the anti-colonial struggle? That's what your question is, essentially, for us.
Why a U.S. adversary that we've had issues with in the past? Why work with them?
Because I don't identify with you and the U.S. government. I don't identify with that.
Do you hate the government?
I detest the U.S. government and what it does to African people on a daily basis. That's what we are here for, because we refuse to allow the system anymore to take the lives of African people. That is a logical thing for me to do.
You do understand what the indictment is about unregistered co-conspirators. I mean, you understand what they're doing.
I understand what they are saying this is about, and I'm telling you what it's about for real, in the real world. Not how you want to see the world, but what it actually is. This is happening in the context of Russia at war with Ukraine. This is happening in the context of our building being potentially burned down. This is happening in that context.
Do you think, is Russia, are they the good guys in the war against Ukraine? Do you think, from your perspective, like, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy?
Russia, we are in support of Russia, I'll say that. African People Socialist Party, and that's been public.
Why would you
That's been public.
I want to understand. I'm asking.
You're trying to understand.
Right. Why would you support a larger country invading a sovereign country?
Because you don't know the history. You don't know the history. You don't know the history of Ukraine and Russia. And you don't know that Ukraine is just a cover for the world colonial powers. You don't understand that. That's why we are against world colonial powers. That's what we are against. And if Russia is against world colonial powers, then we support Russia. That's only logical. That is available online at Burning Spear TV on YouTube. That webinar is available. Yes.
You know this guy. You know Alexander.
She just said it. We've had this discussion.
How many people were there when you hosted that?
This was a virtual discussion, so it's virtual.
Will you continue to work with Russia, or at this point, based on this,
We will continue to work with any force that supports the anti-colonial African revolution. We'll work with them.
Is it possible they're using you?
The African People Socialist Party is an organization that's been here for 50 years. No, because it's a backwards question. Because it presupposes that African people don't have the capacity to lead and struggle ourselves, but we do. And Chairman Achille Anahi founded this organization over 50 years ago, in which created the capacity for the African working class to determine our own futures. Russia don't determine Africa. Nobody else determines Africa but African people ourselves. And that is an insulting question. The African People Socialist Party stands on its own and is able to make determinations for itself, which we've been doing for the last 50 years.
So there,
I didn't support in the 2020 election, in the presidential election. Well, there wasn't anybody speaking to my interests. And when nobody saying reparations to African people, nothing. So ain't nobody get my vote.
But in theory, there are groups you would say no to, right?
There are groups we would say no to that would work against the interests of our community and our people and the struggle. Yes, we would say absolutely no. We would say no to the Democratic Party. We would say no to the Republican Party. We would say no to the Green Party. We would say no to these forces that work against or try to maintain this social system. So, yeah, we can't say no.
So as of now, I mean, you're listed in the indictment, not your name, but are you, so they have not said you're being charged for anything like that yet?
Nope.
Okay.
Not, we don't even have the indictment. So we have no idea. We have, you know, this is...
Ever cross your mind that this was maybe a bad idea? That this could happen? I mean, when you're talking to Russia... I think you
really got to know history, because when you see the Black Power movement of the 1960s and what happened to the Panthers and what happened to, you know, Africans who were organizing during that time, they got gunned down, they were thrown in prison, you know, all these kinds of things happened to our struggle. And I voluntarily joined this struggle, recognizing that this is the history of what this government does to a people that struggles for its freedom. It struggles for true democracy. This is what it does to the people. So, no, I did not enter this work being afraid or thinking that this was a bad decision. I follow the leadership of Chairman Achille and African internationalism, and it does not steer me wrong.
So there's never a concern that again, working with a...
It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what we do.
And you're not willing to say that you did not take money?
I'm not willing to say anything without my lawyer present.
But you may have taken money.
I'm not willing to say anything without my lawyer present. I will not confirm that for you.
What is the status of your chairman? He was arrested today?
No, he was not arrested. He was put in handcuffs, as well as our deputy chairman, Achille. But they were not. Yes, they were released from handcuffs. But their house was broken into. This is St. Louis, where our party is currently headquartered.
Did it used to be headquartered in St. Petersburg?
It did. Yes.
Why did it move up to St. Louis?
Because we found a more strategic base right there in St. Louis. So we have, we have a presence all throughout the U.S. and we have leadership in all of these different places. Every region in the U.S. we have leadership, but the most strategic leadership right now is in the center of the U.S., which is St. Louis.
What has the FBI said to you? Have they told you anything besides the press conference?
No, they gave me that. No, they didn't tell me about this press conference either. They didn't say nothing to us. We came here, we couldn't even get in the press conference. Had to have our ear to the door to even to know what was being heard. So we haven't heard anything.
It's not concerning to hear that they believe that the federal government believes the Russians were trying to influence elections and essentially on some level take the vote away from just average citizens. They were trying to put
The U.S. does this all the time and intervenes in...
We're not talking about the U.S.
No, that's what I am, though. You want to make it about Russia and think that Russia's the big bad guy that intervenes in local elections or something like that, when the U.S. government has this practice. It's a historic practice where the U.S. government takes elected officials that the people put into office and destabilizes that government and ousts them out. No, it's not. It's directly connected. You want to see it as another story, but it's exactly the same.
I understand your point. I'm not even disputing.
You can't possibly understand my point.
I do. But I guess what I'm saying is they're accusing the Russian government of
Yes.
working...
I understand the propaganda campaign that's being waged against Russia to make Russia the big bad guy, when it's the U.S. government that has had this reign on the entire world for all this time. This is what you want to make it about. Russia's the big bad guy. Russia's the problem. Russia is not in my community doing any of this stuff to me. It's not the reason why me as an African woman is catching hell. It's just not. It's not responsible for that. And that's what we have to make clear. That's what we have to make clear.
Can you spell your name for us too, so we have that correct?
Yes, it's Akile, last name Anai.
And who is the leader again?
Achille Anahi.
And can you spell that person's name as well?
Omali, last name Yeshitela.
And is this morning the first you've heard of this? Is like the first time you're hearing about this?
Well, I mean, I was approached this morning at 6 a.m., so that would be the first I've heard about
Yeah,
this.
they didn't give you calls ahead of time or anything?
No, they did not. Actually, they lured me out of my house under false pretenses. They told me my car got broken into. It didn't. They were doing the breaking in, the police and the FBI.
So they searched your home?
Thank you.
They searched your home?
No, they did not search my home.